So, okay, now I'm going to start off and talk about electrics. So the focal point, the center point of your electrical system in your car is your battery. Okay, now a battery is I don't know, this big, about the size of a gallon, and it should be clean. It should be tied down, should be the right size. I've got a chart, it's up on the website someplace, but it's the midgets are 22s. These are group numbers that Interstate Battery and other battery manufacturers use. Midgets are 22. T-types, you can put a group 24 in that. You can almost run the car as an electric car with a battery that big in it. Group 24 works on the 74.5 through 80 MGBs. Group 26 works on the older MGAs and MGAs and MGBs that used to have twin 6 volts. So you can take the twin 6s out. I mean, nobody's got twin 6s anymore. Almost no one does. And if you do, you've chosen to keep them in there. But the single 12 group 26 fits right in. It's a lot nicer battery. All modern 12 volt batteries are so much better than the old 6 volt batteries, which you can still buy. But they're new, and they truly are new and improved. So got a couple of notes here. I've got a.
What group, John, for the bill here? What group for the 74 MGB?
Which 74? Chrome bumper, rubber bumper?
It's got Sabrina's on it.
Oh, that used to have twin
74.
6s.
Yeah.
So you'd get a group 26.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, fits right in.
Great.
Although sometimes you got to grab both posts with vice grips.
Let it down right in. Yeah.
And lower it down in. Don't let them touch. So
thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yep. You want to make sure the battery's clean. You want to make sure the clamps are clean and new. We used to change a lot of clamps. The old helmet clamps that fit over the post, they had a screw in the top. Those are, I mean, if you're Mr. Original and you got to have them, then I'm not going to tell you anything you don't already know. They're bugger to work with. But the modern clamps that clamp around the post, and should have some post pads on there to isolate the posts and the clamps. So a battery's got about 80 amp hours in it. That, in other words, it'll deliver 80 amps for 1 hour. That works it pretty hard. Or it might deliver 1 amp for 80 hours. That isn't working quite so hard. So that's about 3,000 BTUs, British thermal units. That same volume, that about a gallon in gasoline, has got 120,000 BTUs. It's really hard to store electricity. You can get a lot of energy out of carbon compounds. That's why gasoline's still so popular. The next part after the battery is, well, let me say a few more things about the battery. The battery should be topped up with distilled water, and it should be kept charged. If you're gonna have the car lay by for a long periods of time, winter storage, whatever, then get one of those battery tenders. You can hook it up right to the battery, big hassle doing that, or hook it right to the fuse box. That's what I do. And then the voltage, the energy trickles back to the battery as it's necessary. Can't leave a battery charger on. That'll boil the battery dry and wreck the battery, wreck everything. But a battery tender checks the voltage, and if it needs a little burst of electricity, it gives it a little burst. I don't know whether it measures it once every millisecond or once every 10 seconds, something or other, and it keeps the battery at full charge. The battery will last longer at full charge rather than being up and down a lot. And if you let it go completely dead and it freezes, it's just water, so it bursts and the battery is physically wrecked. Over a long period of time, a battery sulfates, gets sulfur on the plates, and just won't hold as much electricity as it would originally. It won't hold that 80 amp hours. It might hold 20. Well, that's still okay. You can try to start the car a couple of times before you lose the battery altogether. But eventually, the battery does go bad. But batteries are the most oversold part of the car. Nobody ever buys brake pads. You know, you look at them, you go, I don't need brake pads yet, so you don't buy them. But if you take your battery in to, used to be some places you'd check it and they had meters that said good or bad, and the meter always read bad, no matter what the battery was. Said, oh, yes, sir, you need a new battery. So anyway, the next part after the battery is the wiring loom. The wiring loom is a loom. It's a tube of cloth or plastic in which are 2, 1, or 3 dozen wires. It just depends. No wire ends inside the wiring loom. Every wire exits. That means that every wire's got 2 ends. So there are twice as many exits as there are pieces of wire in the car. And they exit and they go into gauge plugs. They go into spade terminals. They go into those Lucas bullet connectors. The bullet connectors you can clean up with a wire brush. Hold the wire with a pair of pliers and just take a little stainless steel toothbrushes, brush it a little bit, and then buy brand new Lucas female connectors, especially in the front of the car. I'll have people call and say, oh, you know, dude, I don't know what's going on, but my bright light indicator is always on, and I hit the bright light, you know, switch, and one goes on and one goes off, and it's because all those connections have been exposed to the weather behind the grill for all those years, and they're old and corroded. So you pop them. Don't look for the bad one. Just pull them all apart. Pull them all apart and clean up the bullet connectors and put them all back together.
You put anything on them?
You know, I know there's dielectric grease. I have this, I mean, so old fashioned. A lot of people put dielectric grease on. Yes, they do. I don't, but
Thank you.
because I'm old fashioned. Yep, dielectric grease. If you have to replace the bullet connectors, you can buy 2 different types of bullets. First of all, you buy them by size. That has to do with the number of strands of wire that there are inside, 18 or 20 or 6 or something. And then you can get them that either crimp on. That's an expensive tool. You buy the proper crimper, it's $150 for the set of pliers, and Harbor Freight doesn't have it because not everybody's got our kind of wiring. Or you can solder them on. Soldering's a whole lot better, of course. You can get solder terminals and solderless terminals that need to be crimped. So don't ever open up the wiring loom. There's no point taking a razor blade and cutting the sheath that holds all the wires together, because you won't see anything that makes any sense to you. Anything that makes any sense is outside. Wires don't go bad. Bullet connectors don't go bad. Now, of course, there's exceptions. We had a guy come in one time and he goes, I don't know what's going on. You know, I step on my brakes and the gas gauge goes up and this and that. And he had all these weird things happening. And he put wooden floorboards in his MGB and just put screws, around the edge of the plywood on the floor and ran one screw right through the wiring loom. It's like, well, duh. You know, of course, all kinds of weird stuff's going to happen. Those are pretty unusual. Mice, of course, those furry little rodents that have been personified by Disney and are truly horrible little filthy, disgusting creatures, will eat your wiring, and they eat modern wiring even more, of course, because modern wiring is soy-based. The insulator on it or something. That's what I'm told. Anyway. After this, and within the wiring loom is the fuse box. The fuse box requires regular maintenance. The battery requires regular maintenance. I mean, you wouldn't just drive and never check or change your oil. I know some of us do, but you're not supposed to. And the same thing is true with the wiring. You have to service the battery. You should do it annually. Just take it out, clean it, wash it all off in baking soda and water. Don't let the baking soda inside. of the cells, but just clean it all off, make sure it's all nice, and put some, put the terminals back on and get them all nice and clean with a wire brush, and put some grease on it to cut down on the corrosion. As well as the battery, the fuse box needs attention also. So take the fuse box off the car. Now, if it's a T-type, your arms aren't long enough to reach around and get both ends, one from the inside and one from the outside. But the more modern vehicles, MGBs, even an MGA's got nuts on the backside of the fuse box. Those are a bugger to get off. But the MGBs and the Midgets, later ones, all the fuse boxes just come off with a couple of screws. You just have to observe which is top on the fuse box. There's a bridged connection, 1970 through 1980. And if you get the fuse box in upside down, you can start the car, but you can't turn it off. So it's real clear that you've done something wrong. It's just putting the fuse box in upside down. It's a bridged connection for the parking light circuit. So how do you clean the fuse box? Well, you can bring it in the house and put it in a bath of ammonia or copper cleaner. Use your kid's toothbrush and some copper cleaner on it or something. The best way, of course, always is abrasively, and that's with a little sandblaster. And just spray it until it's all nice and clean. Pinch the terminals all together so that when you snap the fuses back in, they snap in real tightly. Hey, between the battery and the fuse box, you've got 95% of all the problems in the car. So then after that, we've got the starter circuit, and the starter circuit is why you've got the battery. I mean, you could use a little lantern battery, I think, if it worked for that starter motor that gobbles up 100, 150 amps and suppresses the voltage in the starting circuit down to about 10 volts when you're spinning it over, especially when it's cold. That's why you need a good battery. It's just to run the starter motor. But starter motors can and do go bad up through 67 on the Bs, and then all the Midgets, it's a crash style starter. And then from 68 onwards on the Bs and Cs, it's a pre-engaged starter. The modern starters that you buy, the high torque starters, are all pre-engaged starters. They're really nice starter motors. They don't sound right, they sound Japanese. I wonder why, or Chinese. But they are smaller and they are pre-engaged, so it won't tear up your flywheel. Over a period of time with a crash style starter, T-types, MGAs, Midgets, early Bs through 67, you got this starter motor that crashes against the flywheel and wears it out 180 degrees out. It gets really worn, and finally the starter motor will start to stick. And then you got to take the engine out and change the ring gear. Now, this isn't very often. As often as you do a clutch, once every 5 times you do a clutch, depends on your starting technique. But those pre-engaged starters are really nice. But a starter motor either works or doesn't work. And if you energize the starter motor, it ought to spin the engine for 20 seconds, without any problem at all. So after that, we've got how we resupply the battery with electricity after we've used it up to run the starter motor, and that's either a dynamo or a generator. It's only a dynamo if it's a T-type. It's expensive. Dynamo and generator are synonymous. Or 68 and later on the Bs, and I think 70 and later on the Midgets, we've got alternators. Now, it doesn't make any difference whether the battery's connected positive earth or negative earth if you've got a generator. Just doesn't make any difference. You got to polarize it, and after that, you're home free. Everything else works correctly. On the T-types, the ammeters read backwards, stuff like that. There's little stuff, but nothing that prevents you from driving the car. But 68 through 80, MGCs, MGBs, you got to put the battery in correctly, because if you put the battery in backwards, it lets all the smoke out of the alternator. Now, you know that the ground strap on the MGB was, 8 inches long, 6 inches long. It's black. But over a period of time, it gets crummy, and you go to Napa and you buy another one. And you say, I need a cable, a battery cable about that long. They come out with a red one. and you go, oh boy, I better not get this confused, but you will. Every year we used to get calls from people in the springtime. They go, oh, you know, I put a red cable in there and I should have remembered, but I hooked my battery up backwards and let all the smoke out of my alternator. So there's a couple $100. Anyway, just if you're gonna buy a battery cable, buy a black one. And then you have to look at the battery. You can also mark the posts with a yellow paint pencil or something, you know, just so you know what's plus and minus. After that are all the circuits, headlight circuits, parking light circuits, the instruments, stuff like that. Hardly ever does that stuff really go bad. The wiper motor sometimes will fail. If it's been stuck, it'll burn up on the inside. T-type windscreen motors are two-speed. They're either too slow or too fast. Actually, most of them are neither. Most of them don't work. Those are real elementary motors, and they just don't have enough torque, and they haven't lasted like some of the other parts of the car have. So anyway, that's just my brief thing about electrics. A couple other ones. If something weird is happening, you step on the brakes and the horns blow. You know, I mean, just weird. It's a ground. I can't tell you exactly how that would be a ground, but when the weird stuff happens, it's a faulty ground. And do not approach an electrical malfunction without a diagram and without a test light, or else it's a certain route to madness. Absolutely, you got to have a 12-volt test light. The cheaper, the better. Not one with 3 wires, one with, you know, it looks like an ice pick and it's got a bulb inside. And when electricity goes through it, the bulb lights up. It's just easy schmeezy. I don't use any meters. Meters aren't useful with MGs. In some instances, in some cases, of course they are. But just for looking for electrical malfunctions, it's the test light and the wiring diagram for your car. A 70 MGB is different from a 72 MGB, is different from a 74, is different from a 76, is different from a 78. So you can't get a generic wiring diagram. Well, they're close, they'll help. And no Triumph, it's really sad, but in the Triumph workshop manuals, they have very detailed diagrams, as do we in our MG manuals, but none of the Triumph diagrams are right. There's always stuff that isn't reflected properly. Ours are always right from my vantage. I haven't found any problem. So I don't know why this is out of focus behind me. Let me just look and see if blur my background. I don't want my background blurred there. So in the background here, I've got, do this all correctly, I've got a wiring diagram. See him all blown up there? So if you've got a workshop manual and you got a T-type, well, you can follow those wires. But if you've got a 77 MGB and a wiring diagram, oh my gosh, it looks like the back of a color TV set. It's really, really complex. There's just lots and lots of circuits. So if you can't follow all those little tiny wires yourself, then take this thing down to FedEx office and have them scan it and blow it up into a poster. I had this one laminated even. So it's really cool. My fantasy at one time was to get a whole lot of Venetian blinds so I could pull down each one with a different wiring diagram on it. But oh my gosh, it cost me $2,000 by the time I was done with all the diagrams. If you yourself want some help with electrics, send me an email and I'll send you, I got the wiring diagram for your car. I have some general information about wiring, you know, the wiring families. Black is always earth, white's hot, ignition hot, unfused. Brown is always hot, unfused. Purple is Anyway, wiring families, the blacks, the whites, the reds, the blues, the greens, and it tells you what they generally do, what kind of circuits they're involved with. And then I've also got it color by color, black with white, white with black, and exactly what it does. I've got those, and I've got the wiring diagram. So if you want some of this information for your car, I'm more than happy to send it to you, but send me an email and with the year of your car, and I will send it to you. I don't have British or Japanese or South African diagrams. I've got US federal spec and California and Canadian spec. So it's the same. Canadian spec is almost always the same as federal spec, except they only have one cooling fan. 77 through 80, whereas all the federal cars have got two cooling fans. So little things like that. Anyway, that's my quick discussion. It isn't so quick. I've chewed up 40 minutes here, prattling on about numbers and everything. So let me ask and see if anyone's got questions about electrics, and then after that we'll go over to our general chat section. So you can
John, it's Dale Brown of Windsor.
Yes, sir.
In your email introduction, you talked about cleaning the solenoids on a starter when you're having starter problems. Can you just elaborate on that?
Okay, so the starter solenoid 68 through 80, there's two different styles, three different styles maybe. And you can take them apart. You need a good soldering gun. I mean, not some weenie little thing for doing occasional speakers or something. I mean, something that gets really hot. You gotta have flux, you gotta have solder, you gotta have compressed air, it's handy. And you can take the solenoids apart, like everything else in the car. It comes apart, but there is a solder joint. You gotta hit that with a heat. And I found, I've got to use my U-ball. It's not. Here we go. There we go. So anyway, I found the easiest way to get rid of solder in a joint is to heat it up with a soldering iron. I've got an old Weller, a great big thing, and it gets it really hot. And then you take your air gun and you close your eyes and you go, and it blows that solder out. It makes a cold solder joint, and the wires just fall out of place. That works on taking the the rectifiers out of alternators. It's a real effective way of getting the solder out of there. I know you can use the cool little mesh, copper mesh, and suck the solder out, but compressed air is just a whole lot faster, and it just pops it right apart. So anyway, you do that. Then you get the thing apart and you look at it and you clean up all the little individual pieces and sand them flat or whatever you're going to do and put it all back together. It works. Or you can buy a new one, for $38 or something, that will work most of the time. But is that what you need to know? Kind of?
Yes. Thanks, John.
Okay, all right. I don't
John,
know
I've got a
Oh.
question about regulators.
Yes, sir. John Backman, where are you from?
Sammamish near Seattle.
Oh, okay.
Lost our power this morning with high wind. So first of all, Dennis, are you going to share some of that wine? So John, on voltage regulators, what do you think about electronic voltage regulators?
Oh, those are just fine. Those are fine. You can't make a mistake and wire it up backwards. If you do, it pops it apart just like it pops an alternator. But if you're the only one dealing with your car, I can't think of the name of the people that make the solid state ones. I know there's some people that were taking your old can that Fred Horner is going to talk about. So it's got the right date code on it. It says 153 if you've got a TD that was made in April of 53, so it's the right one there. And somebody will put some electronic guts in, but those are fine. As far as I know, they're just fine.
Thanks.
Yep.
John, Gerald Dalton.
Yes,
Hey,
sir.
75 MGB. Back in the summer, we talked briefly. I had a starter relay that shorted out, burned up my wiring harness. I bought a new harness and just started working on it the other day. Pulled the dash out and started to put the new harness in the dash. And I'm
What
short.
a task.
Yeah, I'm short like 8 light bulbs. Well, I have 8 light bulbs. I'm short 5 on the harness. So I called British Wiring and gave him my VIN. He said, yeah, you have the correct wiring. But he says that it sounds like I have a 1973 dashboard in this thing. And so just mainly
Wow.
the sockets are a lot smaller in it. And but anyway, are there, I'm losing a little faith right now in them. Are there other companies that are reputable as far as,
Well, you got, you
or are
got
they all
Moss.
going to be, you're going to have to cut your
Well,
own stuff
you've
off?
already got it, and it's already half in place, right? So, I mean, your wiring loom, it's already half in place.
No, it's all I've
Oh,
the in the package. All I did was took the dash out and tried to lay out the wiring
Okay.
harness just in the dash, and things are not matching up. So he said they've got one that's an early model that basically is the same harness, but it just has smaller fixtures for the light bulbs.
okay. Well,
But,
you
still,
gotta work. Most everybody is doing the best they can, and there's some weird things that happen. 72, 73, 74. You've got seatbelt interlocks. You've got, there are things that are happening there, and they're being supplied the harness. They're not making them in a back room there in Philadelphia. They're ordering them up from England, and England's supplying them the way that they think they ought to be. Or maybe the guy who's made it that day, he's dreaming about getting married on Friday, and he just hasn't got his mind on it. You just have to go with the flow.
okay.
John,
Hey, John.
Yes.
Hey, John. Yeah, how's he going to keep that from happening again? If he changes the wiring harness, what was the problem? What caused a starting relay to draw that much? Yeah, what's up with that?
My guess is that the starter relay made the starter motor work until the battery ran down, or until the starter started smoking, something like that. Am I guessing?
Actually, what happened was the little Bakelite or the circuit board inside the can that's bolted to the firewall, it got loose and went over and grounded itself out. It actually welded the contact from the solenoid right to the casing, which sent a ground.
So you had a brown wire.
So I was pulling hot
Yep.
wires and burning fingers.
There's a
Yep.
brown hot unfused that went to ground there, and that, yeah, once it goes up behind the dash, oh man, something like that yeah.
That's a shame. Okay, thank you. That answers.
And I
the
saw
question.
that.
Yep.
Yeah, I saw that little the circuit board in that was not crimped real tight, and didn't think much of it. It just kind of wiggled in there.
I've just lost you. So it's the guy from Seattle that had the power loss. There, you're back again for a second.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, it caused me a little.
Yep, I understand. Yeah, there's not much you can do about that. I mean, there are those random things that just happen, and it's just, it's so frustrating. Changing the whole wiring. I, more often than not, when I was in the shop, if I had a one wire in a wiring loom that burned up, for instance, the brown wire, wherever that went, where it came from, I would take the wiring loom apart, put it on a board, and take the cover off it, and replace the one wire, and then inspect all the other wires along it, as long as they weren't melted through, or if they were, tape those individually and then retape the whole thing in blue. But I don't know, for a couple of $100, another wiring loom is just it isn't the cost of the wiring loom, it's the logistics of getting it all back in, and then it's never exactly the same. Very few of mine. The older you get, the easier they are, because there aren't so many circuits. But yeah. So anyway, good luck with that, Joe.
John,
Yes.
this is Richard Pittenger in Troy, Ohio.
Yes, sir.
John, I'm new to MGBs and British sports cars in general. I've had an 80 MGB LE for about 2 months. Just trying to learn everything I can about it. I got a lot of literature that transferred to me. And, you know, the small version of the diagram you just talked about in the Haynes catalog, I've studied it quite a bit. The question I have, though, is, in my experience, grounds in general with all vehicles can be a major problem. And I would like to, my question is there any kind of information or a listing of where the grounds are in an 80 MGB? So I could just go through them and clean them all up good for starters.
You'll have to discover that on your own, and it's all the black wires. So there's all black wires. There's a huge ground connection right underneath the fuse box where you've got, I don't know, 7 maybe black wires on ring terminals, all go under a screw.
John,
there's
I'm in
another-
front of one right now if you want to do a guided tour.
Oh, look at this. Oh, what's that? Oh my gosh.
I know, it's the valve cover you hate. Don't get me started.
No, it's the homemade ground cable. So then there's some ring terminals right at the wiper motor, and there's some ring terminals with black wires underneath a rear license plate holder, and those are the three big places that they are. But any black wires ground. Well, this is interesting in the picture here. Who's on? Oh, Ryan.
It's Ryan Massfuller from Jacksonville, Florida. How are you?
Yeah. So anyway, we got a homemade ground cable there.
There's a lot of homemade stuff here.
Okay. Well, better to have a homemade ground cable than none at all. Because
That's right.
if you don't have a ground cable, if the battery hasn't got a really solid connection between the starter motor and itself, both on the positive and on the negative side, all kinds of weird stuff happened. We had one time where the guy goes, every time it was an MGA, every time I pull my starter motor, my temp gauge all of a sudden starts shooting up, and it's because the starter motor, which is drawing 100 amps, is getting it anywhere it can, and the ground cable was missing or loose or something, and so it was going through the capillary tube up to the temperature control. What's this magic stuff? Oh,
So
is this liquid smoke or what?
No. If you've never tried this stuff, it's quite expensive. I'm going to warn you right now, but it is a magic elixir. It's called Deoxit. You can get it on Amazon. You could put it on any of your bullet connectors. Don't let it, flow between them or whatever. But you can put it on all your grounds. It is magic. Absolutely removes oxidation, improves the connection.
Okay.
It's really great stuff. But you were talking about the bullet connectors earlier.
Yes.
I wanted to say that's a great one.
So you can chemically clean them with that.
There's one other on Amazon. You can get these. There's a bullet connector kit that this company makes. It's called Wirefly, and they make. These are amazing connectors. They're already got shrink tubing on them, and they have adhesives. They come in several different sizes.
Okay.
So there's a heat shrink
Yep.
and a heat activated adhesive. So when you put it on the wire and hit it with the heat gun, it creates a marine tight seal. So
Okay.
these are amazing. And the crimper for it's only about I want to say $35-$40. So
Okay.
FYI. Thanks, John.
Hey, yeah, Ryan, thanks. So I'm going to go back to Richard, who is talking about his 1980 MGB, and those are the three main parts right underneath the fuse box, up by the wiper motor and at the back of the car, and everything else you just have to attend to individually. The lamps all ground through the body. I mean, the tail lamps and the side markers don't ground through the body. The tail lamps do. So almost everything else has got a black wire attached to it. Your front turn signals do, your front side markers, rear side markers, your rear lamps, ground to the body, the reverse lights have a ground wire on them. So lots and lots of stuff has ground wires. You tend to it, if one side marker goes out or gets crappy, it's like clean all of them, just do it like,
Yeah.
like you're on a shop floor and one fluorescent goes out, and just change one, right?
Right.
Change the
How
whole
about
bulb.
up under the dash? Are there grounds up there?
Over by the wiper motor, which is above the passenger's right knee. And that's about it.
John, there's another ground underneath the dash in the back of the just behind the tachometer, I think.
On an 80B,
Is this-
okay.
On my 74, there is. I don't know
Okay.
about the 80.
Well, there probably is
And-
there too. I
And
can't.
the other place to look for wiring diagram is advanced wiring.
Yes,
One
and thank you for saying that. I would steer you away from a Haynes manual, because those are more generic. It'll say wiring diagrams 77 through 80 or 75 through 80, and it isn't, it's close, but it's not spot on. So if you want to get the information, I do have some more about the late Model B. If you want to send me an email, I'll be happy to send you that information that I have. But if you keep the battery clean and the fan belt tight and clean the fuse box, then you only are ever going to have to approach electrical malfunctions individually. You won't have a cluster of them.
Okay.
John, I
Thank
have
you,
a
John.
question. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Richard.
I was just going to ask you if your email address, is that the same one that you used to send out the Zoom meeting info?
Yes, sir. John Twist at universitymotorsltd.com. Yep.
Okay, I'll send you a message, John.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Okay, sure.
John,
Absolutely.
this is Dennis. I'm in Central Oregon.
Yes, sir.
DCK 67. I've got 74 MGB. I've had to mess around with the contacts in the sequential control box, which apparently is not working. I rebuilt and put in a new wiring harness and rebuilt the car, or restored the car. And I ended up having to jump the wire in the sequential box that
The white with red, the white with red to the yellow with purple, I think.
right.
Yeah, I don't know anyone who wants to get that Pectron unit working correctly and make sure that you have to have your seatbelt fastened before the car starts. I've never ever dealt with that. I've only dealt with removing them.
That's what I was going to ask you, is if there's people out there that are still doing that. I can't figure out how to do it. I just jumped it and left it alone.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
you gotta hit, there's a switch in the bottom of both seats. And so you have to make the starter motor work, you're sitting in the seat and the seat belt is fastened. So there's a
Right.
lot of individual connections there, any one of which, switch or something or other can bugger it up. But I don't know anyone who ever wanted that system to work.
I wish somebody would put that out there so other MGB and maybe everybody knows it, but I sure didn't know, and it took me a long time to figure that out. Car wouldn't
Yeah.
start.
Turn it over to start, nothing happens. Yep.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yep.
Hi, John. Dean Harrison in Calgary.
Yes, sir.
Got a 68 early Canadian spec MGC.
Okay.
Can I rely on the 67 wiring diagram?
But those are British. 67 is British. So I don't know. What's your VIN? How early is it?
It's June of 68. I haven't got the VIN
Ooh, boy,
handy.
that's-
It was,
yeah,
it was
that's-
right one of the last ones that came out. And prior to the US regulations, you could still import the early 68s with a steel dash into Canada. Causes me all manner of problems when I order stuff.
I would imagine so. You know, the only really weird thing on that is it's got that 15 AC alternator with a 4 TR control box up on the inner fender. That's in the 4 TR control boxes that you buy today have got different placements of the wiring than the original one does. Sometimes that takes it 1 or 2 units before, you know, you go, what is going on? And then you look at it, you know, anyway, yeah.
Okay.
That's it's all that I know, you know, I don't know much about the MGCs. It's certainly not the early ones and not the early Canadian or, you know,
Yeah.
filler ones, but yeah, you have to look at one or the other. I mean, lighting circuits are the same, headlight circuits are the same, the tack, the impulse loop in the back of the tack goes onto the coil. It's the same kind of stuff, so.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you.
Do you have an automatic or a stick?
I've got a stick shift
Okay, all right.
with overdrive.
Nice, because the automatics had a neutral safety switch.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you very much. You're from Calgary?
Yes,
Oh, then we'll see you this summer.
you definitely will.
Absolutely. Okay. All right. Thanks. We got any more electrical questions?
John,
Yes, sir.
Guido.
Guido, hi, how you doing?
All right, John.
That's a nice MG postcard there behind you. On
Oh,
the
you like
mirror.
that? I wonder where I got that. Thanks, John. Where can I get, is there a company that I can get a color wiring diagram for my 70?
Advanced auto wiring, I think that's what everybody says. It's
I posted a link in the chat, John, just a second
Okay.
ago, and they've got the PDFs up there. The guy is really courteous about letting you blow it up. I mean, it says maybe reproduced for personal non-commercial use, and I definitely have done that in the garage. Even added a color-coded reverse if you want to see what a
Sure.
light green to blue tracer means. So, anyways, yeah, check out the link. It's in the chat.
That's a high light green with a blue tracer is fast speed on your wiper motor.
Look at him go. He's still got it.
Hey, you know.
And what company was that?
Advanced, say
Yeah,
again
it's
there.
advanced auto wire. If you look in the chat, if you take a look at the chat, I posted it. There's a PDF there with every make and model MGB from
Okay.
like 62 on. They're
That's
all
Ryan,
there. He's
right,
got
Ryan?
a different. Yep. You can find it in
Thank
the
you.
chat. If not, just reach out to me.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hey, John, you know, he's there in Kentwood.
Yes. Yep. Just south of me, absolutely.
And those diagrams are in color too.
Makes it real handy. Yep, just like reading a road map. And they are, and they're stretched out into function rather than geographic placement. So.
And I'm not looking at mine right now, but I know when you look at the PDFs, they'll show the year and it'll say, you know, 70, 71. And the next one may say 71. And then the one after that may say 71, 72. Because I guess because they made changes throughout there. So like I have a 72 and there's a couple of one or more than one page that includes 72. So if you look at it, like some of them have, I don't know if it's the seatbelt buzzer or something.
Or something.
And yeah, so kind of match it up with your car, get the right 1 or 2 pages there, and you'll see slight differences in them, and you can match it up and go, oh, I don't have this on my car, so it's really the one before that. Because
Well, you also want to look at it because it differentiates between the GT and the Roadster in some cases as well.
yeah. So anyway, just be aware of that.
Yeah, that was the meat of one of my question, is that has someone put together a consolidated list of what the differences is between all of those diagrams. That way I don't have to sit down and compare them back and forth, one this, what's different here. This one has 2 light bulbs, this one has 3, all those things. If somebody's actually documented those differences, so we don't have to reinvent the wheel every time we go through those diagrams.
At the bottom of each page on Advanced Auto Wires diagrams, it'll tell you which model year the car is for. So you just really have to go to your car.
Yeah, but like he was saying, there's 3 pages for a 72, and my example is for a 72 as well. So which one of the 72s is my car?
There's some confusion too, because when the British talk about a 72, they talk about a car that was produced in 1972. When we talk about a 72, we're talking about a MGB, a GHN 5UC. That's what the prefix on the VIN is. So there's and besides that, they did make, I know that they made little tiny changes throughout. And then you get into certain years, 74's got a lot of changes in it. Just 74, I mean, you've got 3 different types of bumpers. Yeah.
I found that you have to use 2 of those. One works for one car, for the car sometimes, another one works for the car other times.
It's, I know it can be frustrating. I do have a color code list though that tells you that light green with blue is high speed motor, wiper motor, and for that matter, light green with red is low speed. And so I've got that available. And if you want to send it, sometimes it helps if you're looking at a wire. What I tell people to do is to extract a circuit that you're taking a look at. I mean, let's say something doesn't work, your brake lights don't work, just for instance. So it's like, oh my God, where do I even start? Well, you start with the bulbs, of course, because those are the cheapest, easiest, simplest stuff first. And it turns out both bulbs are burned out. And you say, well, why would both the bulbs burn out at the same time? They didn't. One's been out for 3 years. You just didn't know it. And you didn't know that both of them were out until the last one finally went out. But anyway, you take that wiring diagram that I showed behind me and either blow it up, and then you can trace along it and see where it goes. Or better is to take a piece of paper and extract the circuit, draw the circuit on the piece of paper, start at the battery and end up at ground. And in so doing, and write down the colors, you got to look at the original diagram. And so all of a sudden it's like, oh, 77 MGB, brake light circuit. I got to hit the mute all. I got background noise here. Sorry. Anyway, so, you get to the fuse box and there's a green that comes off the fuse box that goes to the washer, to the washer motor, and from the washer motor, the green wire continues over to the brake light, and there goes through the switch and turns into green with purple, and then it makes a couple more connections before it finally gets to the back end of the car. And if you can follow that, and you've got your 12-volt test light, and you tested at every single point along the way, you will find out where the problem is. I had a really good one. I've told this one before. I had a guy call me up and he said, my right rear turn signal doesn't work. Snap on the hazards, both fronts go, left rear goes. Turn on the turn signals, it winks on the left side. It won't wink on the right side. Front light will come on, but the rear light won't. So he came in, he called me up and he said, I've been working on this for 2 days and I can't find out what the problem is. I've changed the bulbs. I've checked the connections in the trunk. I've checked everything. And he came in and his arm was all scratched up. I said, what the hell happened to you? It looked like he'd had an attack with a cat, and he said, I've been up underneath the dashboard. And I said, well, here, let's try this. And I went right to the connection of the main loom to the rear loom at the rear of the right front inner fender, and the green with red wire, which went to the rear loom, had pulled out a little bit. So I pushed it in and I said, well, try it now, and it worked. And he was incredulous. He goes, how would you even know to start there? And I said, well, because you told me you did everything else. You know, that was the only thing I was keeping track, and that was the only thing you said you didn't do. But with a 12-volt test light, you'd go connection to connection to connection, and you would have immediately found that's where the problem lay. So anyway, that's the advantage of working that. And those diagrams are really handy too. The color-coded diagrams.
John, it's Dale Brown again.
Yes.
As you probably know, our good friend Rick Astley from the Windsor Detroit MG Club, he's a retired electrical engineer, and he wrote a book, electrical book for MGB.
Yes.
It's outstanding.
Yes,
you probably have it.
I do. I'm going to get it.
It's got a picture of his V8 MGB GT that he used to have on the front cover.
That book is a red cover, got a red
Yes.
cover on it. Yeah,
Yes.
that's the best book there is that I've found. It's just amazing. Yeah.
Oh,
That's
you
it.
have the, John,
He has
yours is the blue covered one. His red covered one that has the picture of his MGB GT V8 is strictly MGB.
Okay, all right.
Whereas that one there is all British cars. The MGB one.
Oh, this is classic British car. Yes, I grabbed the first one I saw. I've got the other one too, of course.
And it's outstanding because he goes through every circuit with pictures, where things are, a specific diagram just for that circuit. And it's one of the best. Rick Astley, just spelt just like the singer.
Astley. Yep.
Right.
John, it might be helpful too on those wiring diagrams, if you know exactly when your car was made. My 74 was made in October of 73. That helps me to figure out which diagram I need. And then there's difference between the British and the North American.
Oh my gosh, yes. And the Japanese. Yes, absolutely. So there's the wiring diagrams that I have are done by VIN. You know, but again, these are just the wiring diagrams that are available out of the original MGB workshop manual, which is what you get when you get the reprint from the green ones, the big thick. Bentley, thank you. That's a reprint of the factory workshop manual. So and that's got I say all, except for the ones that came out special afterwards, but it's got almost all the wiring diagrams in it.
John,
I
there's
know it's not
also
a popular. Oh, I was just going to tell you about that Rick Astley book. I know it's not a popular opinion, but I just posted the link to the electronic version if you want to buy a copy there. It is quite nice. If you own an iPad, you can at least blow these diagrams up and make them bigger and easier to read. Can't do that with the paper copy. So
correct.
I posted it in the chat for everybody.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hey, John?
Yes.
Yeah, Tom Weisel from Eastern Pennsylvania. My car is missing the marker lights all the way around, all four sides. Is that a UK spec?
No, it's American spec. I mean, the fact that you don't have them, someone filled them in. Right?
Correct. Yeah, because the wires are all there.
Yeah. Well, some people, some people don't like rubber bumpers, so they buy a rubber bumper car, take the rubber bumpers off, buy the kit, put chrome bumpers on. It's like, if you want a chrome bumper car, buy a chrome. Anyway, there's all kinds of handiwork that's been done in the past 40, 50 years on the cars, so. And in 1970, the side markers only came on with the headlights. So it's a blue circuit, not blue with red or blue with white, which are lows and high beams, but just blue. And that was unfused. And that went out to a whole lot of corners, a lot of trouble there. And the next year, then they tied it in with a parking light circuit, but they probably didn't do it that way because they wanted to. They probably did that way because that's what the federal spec required. So anyway, yes, I don't. Some people like them, some people don't. If you add them now, you got to Measure 5 times before you drill that hole.
Oh, isn't there any indication where the lamp would be from the inside of the fender?
Maybe, but your best bet is to find somebody who's got theirs apart, or you can drop their side marker off, measure down and get a center point.
Yeah. Was that a UK spec? UK did not have the markers? That's what I've been told.
I don't
That's what
know.
I was told.
I don't know. That makes sense. They didn't even have dual circuit brakes until 1978 or 79. Still ran single circuit brakes. So, yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
The author of that book again, please.
Astley, A-S-T-L-E-Y, Rick Astley.
A-S-T-L-E-Y?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Should have had Rick come on tonight if I was doing electrics. I'll think of that next time we come around to it. Somebody tried to come in for a minute and then got drowned out. Who was that?
John, this is Wayne.
Yeah, Wayne.
Yeah, Wayne, I'm in California. I just been doing some troubleshooting on my light, on my wiring under my dash and my 70. And it suddenly came to my realization that all the switches go switch to ground. Typically, when you switch power, you switch the power from the device. In this case, you switch the ground from the device, which is kind of backwards, but that's the way that all the British cars are done.
That's the way a lot of them were, but by what year do you have? 70?
70.
Yeah, so the horn, let's see, the headlights are grounded and you send power to them. The heater motor, I think, is grounded and you send power to it. The wiper switch is a bizarre circuit because it grounds the motor so it doesn't keep spinning once it stops. And then the horns are wired hot and you ground them when you press that. So in the overdrive, if you got that, the overdrive is grounded and you send power to that. But a lot of the stuff, earlier stuff, was certainly wired seemingly backwards. Like the heater motor was hot and you turned the switch and it grounded it. But doesn't make a difference what way you do it. It still gets there, but it's unnerving, unusual. It's like going into looking at the wiring, and if you've done any wiring in your house, green's ground, right? Nope. Nope. No. In your house, black is hot. No, in your car, black is ground. So, yeah.
Hey, John, I've got a question. Where do you recommend relays other than the headlights?
Oh, let's see. That's about it, really. Horn's nice. If you got air horns, which I would suggest to everybody that they get, because you can't, if you got original like wind tone horns on a TD or an MGA, those things are really loud. Oh my gosh.
One like this, John?
Oh my gosh, what is that?
It's a klaxon. I bought it this way, okay,
Oh
to
my
be
gosh.
fair. But I didn't
So,
take it out. It's nice to have that loud horn.
Oh, no, you want a loud horn. Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
That thing is huge. Air horns are real nice. They come with relays. It's just, you've got this little weenie ass wire that runs all the way up through the loom and then rounds out when you press either the column switch or the center of the steering wheel. And it isn't a connection that'll carry a whole lot of energy, a whole lot of watts. So the headlights save the switch. That's the advantage of putting the headlight relays in. Some people say, oh, the lights are brighter. Well, they are marginally, but mainly it saves the headlight switch. If you've got a regular unrelayed MGB, and you drive for a while and you feel with the headlights on, and you feel the switch is warm. It just is, because you got so much
fucking melted too.
so much resistance in it. So,
Thank you.
How about the cooling fan, John?
yes,
I have no idea.
yes, thank
I
you.
was kidding. You
Now,
see, I
here,
was put it up
I'm
to
gonna
your
hit-
ear and I made like I was laughing at what he was saying.
There we go. We're done with the laughs now. Yes, the cooling fans, absolutely, 77 through 80. Oh my gosh, that again, that's just a little bimetal switch that lies in the radiator. And those cooling fans take more energy than anything else in the car except the starter motor. Those things are so powerful, the original motors in there. Oh my gosh. Yes, relay those also. But pretty soon, you know, you got a Miata. So, you know, you don't want to relay everything.
Hey, John, I've got one for that too. There's a little Amazon makes these. I don't know. They're not really great relays, but you know, it's nice that you can fuse them, and it comes with a pigtail that you can go ahead and wire up. And I've been slowly but surely switching out fans, headlights, everything to these little guys.
Okay.
Really nice little deal. You get like 5 of them for $20. I'll post a link to it.
Okay. All right, Ryan, thank you very much.
Hey, John?
Yes.
Yeah, this is Crystal in Central
Yeah.
Texas. Yeah, one of the things that I did with mine, I kept burning up the brake switch, the brake light switch.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, so I put a relay on that.
Yes, yep. Now all of a sudden we got about a dozen relays. Yes, that makes sense. The brake light switches weren't very good for a while. And if you're using, I don't know, some of those incandescent 1157s draw a lot more current than others. And so that'll wreak havoc with the original switch. And if you got a pressure switch like a 67 or before, on an MGB or an MGA, and if you're using silicone fluid, the silicone, I don't know, gets around it or through the diaphragm or something, gets on the points, and then the points won't carry enough electricity to run the lamps, but they will carry enough to run a relay, at least a lot longer than running the lamp. So putting a relay on an A or an early B with silicone fluid is really important too. So thanks for that, Crystal. I missed, yeah. Yep. So now we've got the brake lights, the headlights, the horn, and the 77 through 80 cooling fans.
And you can also put it on the heater motor.
You think it makes it go faster?
I know.
Yeah, it won't work either way.
People do it, especially if they convert to a 2-speed motor on an earlier car.
Okay. Yes, that would make sense. Yep.
So I have a question. You're lone girl in the room, as far as I've
Almost.
seen.
No,
Yeah.
not the only one.
Woohoo! Hello. I'm in Bethesda, Maryland, and so talking about the horns, the weirdest thing, I don't know, maybe it's electrical. I hadn't thought of it till listening to you guys talk about it. When my car warms up, the horn stops working. You know, just when you need it.
What year?
77.
Bad ground.
You think?
It's right in the front.
And I'm telling you, every single other thing in the car electrically works. Everything. I don't want to jinx myself.
Well, yeah, that's, you know, when something weird happens, that's the rule. When something weird happens, it's the ground. But without having a test light there, it'd be real hard to tell. But there are 2 wires that come down to the, what year, 77?
77.
77, there's 2 wires that come down to the horn. There's a purple wire, which is always hot. Doesn't matter if the key's on or not. It's the bottom fuse. And it could be that other things that you lose. Does your clock work in the dash?
Everything works. Absolutely everything.
Okay, all right. So and then the purple's always hot, and then there's a purple with black, and when you press on the stalk, that it grounds the purple with black. So you take a test light and put it between the purple and the purple with black, and try the try that. So I don't know, heat, things expand.
Right, that was my thought.
You know, so I'm not sure what, but you can unscrew the end of the switch, of the horn switch, and there's a little band of copper in there. You can clean that up a little bit with some steel
Okay.
wool.
Okay. Yeah, I'll try that. Thanks.
And then when you figure it out, call me and tell me, because it's not one I'm used to.
Yeah,
Not a
only
question
when it
I'm-
warms up. Yeah.
Okay, right. Okay.
Hey, John, on a stock MGB, were there any relays other than ignition and starter relays?
Just the starter relay, 1970 through 1980, and then beginning in 77 through 80, the ignition relay. That's it. Those are the only relays in the car.
Thanks.
John, getting back to the horn issue. This is Bill in Western Massachusetts.
Yes, sir.
I had a oil cooler leak, and it was under pressure with the oil spraying out. 6 months later, so one of the horns stopped working. So I was about ready to replace it. It's the original horns, the high-low 74 MGB. And I decided to just take some WD-40 and spray it in there, thinking that maybe some oil got into the horn and had contaminated or had shorted out the connectors inside the horn. And I sprayed WD-40 in there, and a week later, horn worked just fine. So it's amazing, you know.
Oh, that's interesting. And you know, just like medicine, usually the simplest answer is the right answer.
Yeah.
At the
So
very
that-
least, I'll try that first.
Yeah. Tell it.
Well, you can always just pull the connectors off the horns and put them back on. I mean, you
Yeah.
always do the cheapest, easiest, simplest stuff first.
Yes, agreed. I'll try that. Yeah, thanks.
All right.
Hey, John, I heard somebody mentioned, I heard somebody mention a 2-speed blower motor. And my first 71 had a 2-speed blower motor. Every MG I've had doesn't. So where can I get one of those?
Well, you can use a headlamp switch and change the front of it. And so it's got two positions, but a 2-speed motor is either full speed or half speed. And they get the half speed by putting a great big wire wound resistor on one of the feeds to it. So the ground is ground. High speed is normal 12 volts, but then there's this great big resistor that just draws down the voltage. So it runs at half speed. But there's to help me out. I mean, it's like a heater control. It's either on or off. Nobody ever. Well, you guys get so much time in your car, but I mean, with me, it's either the heater is either on or it's not. You know, so
That's the thing. I think the high-speed blowers, that's all you need. A low speed. I mean, why would you make it a lower speed? I was
I don't
just
know.
curious as well.
But Costello, Ken Costello of MGBV8 fame, had a squirrel cage blower that he was selling that supposedly had extra, I don't know, fans or something or other on it. And he claimed that it moved a whole lot more air than the original squirrel cage. And just as a comment about squirrel cage blowers, you can take a squirrel cage motor out of an MGA and put it into an MGB, fits just fine, turns the wrong way, blows the air in the wrong direction. So, or it doesn't. It just the squirrel cage is designed to push in one direction. So, yeah, there's other weird stuff that happens. Like last week when Fred Horner was talking about SU suction chambers, and some of them are drilled and some of them aren't. I mean, how would you even know that somebody had replaced one of yours with one from a 57 MGA? You know, you wouldn't even know. So anyway, weird stuff happens. So it's 8:26 and we're still talking about electrics. Now I'm going to get over to my chat section here. So So let me run through the chat section, and then if you've still got an electrical question, you can't help yourself, you can break in. So regarding torque specs in the shop manual, if the manual does not specify wet or dry, what is the recommended method? And, I guess dry. I always torque the head nuts on the engine oiled. I always do them oiled so that the resistance to turn is exactly the same, or as close as you can get on each of the 11 studs. But I would say dry. I guess dry. But
John, this is Tom.
Yeah, Tom, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm the one that asked the question. And I put a little bit of motor oil on the threads.
Sure.
Cylinder head studs. But then you don't want to, if you torque it to what the manual says, do you risk damaging those threads since you've already lubed it?
No, if you can take it up to 65 pounds, 55 pounds solid, that's what I meant to say, 55 pounds. You can go up to 55 pounds on the engine with oiled studs, absolutely. And as long as they're the original studs, you won't have any problem at all.
Okay, thanks, John.
Okie doke. You're welcome. All right, next one. Charles, everybody. How do I see last week's SU show? Oh, Charles, that would then require me to download last week's show, which is recorded, onto YouTube. So that's something else for me to do. I won't do it tonight. I'll try to do it. I've got 2 or 3 that I haven't downloaded. I will try to do those right away. So that's it. Brian Massfuller, we've got.
Can everybody hear? I can't hear anything.
Well, can you hear? Anybody else have a problem hearing me?
No.
Now you're coming in loud and clear.
Okay.
I hear you.
Okay. Must be something with your computer, but if you can't hear me say that. So let's see. Ryan, what did you ask here? Is this the rewire kit for your MGB? Driving in the Florida sun makes it driving. What should I do? Hide the loom through the fender. I don't like hiding wiring because I don't like to hide the wiring because you have to go to the wiring from time to time. And
yeah, but that'll be my son's problem in 40 years.
Okay. All right.
No,
Okay.
just kidding. So
Yeah,
I'm just wondering what for those that have done it, I got the full rewire kit from Advanced Auto Wire. Took forever to get here, but that's regardless. Just wondering what the caveats are, the pitfalls. Like I know that under the dash is going to be the worst part, but nothing this propeller headed geek can.
You've got to have a cluster wire someplace, and if they're spread out along the inner fender, as they would be originally, it just makes it so much easier, But I have seen some cars where it's up through the inner fender, and you can't see any wire. It's like where are all the wires? They're all you look underneath the dash, and there's this rat's nest of stuff. Which, as long as everything's connected and it's color coded and what's going on, it's just fine. Otherwise, it's like that picture of all those extra power wires going to the battery that I sent out in my constant contact email. So,
thanks.
Hey, all right, Bill Waterstrat, Happy New Year to you too. Bruce McPherson, somebody I can't see the whole name. Yep, McPherson. Had added a relay and a new dashboard switch for headlights, which is very successful. However, after they worked well, I turned the headlights off and now they will not come back on. Fuse is good, no sign of burned wires. I don't know. Maybe it's one of those inexpensive relays that Ryan was talking about. I don't know. You've got to have a test light. You've got to use a test light. So I don't use a meter. A meter will show battery voltage, but no ability to move any quantity of it, amperage. That's why you always use a test light. So I can't tell you on that. Let's see, next one up here is Dale. I have a 68 BGT. It was reconstructed using 72 Roadster parts. I constantly buy the wrong parts. How different is the wiring? Well, it's either got 68 wiring or it's got 72 wiring. So 72's got illuminations on the switches, and the 68 didn't. The 72's got a rheostat for the dash lights. The 68 had a switch on the column.
The 72 didn't have illuminated switches or heater controls. That was 73. They started that.
Oh, excuse me. All right, you're right. Okay. So I'm not sure, but you just, it's the wiring is different, especially the tachometer. I think by 72, you've got a white with black that comes up from the distributor side of the coil that drives the tach. Prior to that, there was an impulse loop, and it picked up the pulse going from the ignition switch to the coil. A very different way of wiring it. You can get around either way, but that's one thing. But I'm not, it's a hard answer. It's a hard question to answer. Tom, from Tom to me, 4 or 6 gauge for battery wire. Well, you always go with the biggest wire you can get. I mean, I don't know for sure, but you always err on the side of a larger wire. It just makes all the sense. Alan Decker, what's your style of hat? Or where could you get them? Okay, well, you can't see on the inside. Oh, now you can see my hair. You can't see on the inside, but the inside says Failsworth, Failsworth. My girlfriend's granddaughter said, how can a company hope to be successful if their name is Failsworth? Anyway, out of England, but I bought last time I bought them was probably a dozen of them, and I'm down to 2 more, I think, because I go through them. I use them a lot. I use them when I'm at work, and then the work hat, funny, I can only wash it so many times it falls apart, and then the good hat becomes the work hat. But these styles of hats come and go. They're not, it's not a Greek fisherman's hat because it hasn't got all the scroll work on it. It's just this. My original one was from, help me out. Dunn, D-U-N-N, Dunn and Company. Bought it in London in 1972, and I've worn the same style of hat since. But Dunn and Company was a men's accessory shop. And men don't buy accessories anymore. They don't buy cane, umbrellas and hats and things like that. So Dunn and Company's gone. So you just have to hunt around and find them. Last time it took me forever, and finally I found it, and so I ordered a bunch of them. So let's see. Bill Waterstrat, need to know a source for decent replacement synchros for a transmission rebuild. Bill, you've got a 68 through 80, right, Bill?
Yes.
Yeah. I think the new ones that are available now are okay. I think that's what I heard. For a while they weren't. They were elliptical or something. But we always bed them in. We put them up on a lathe, and with a main shaft and the speed gear and the sliding hub, and you put the synchro into the sliding hub, put some valve lapping compound on it, and then by hand hold the speed gear as the rest of it's spinning, and it'll bed itself in a lot more quickly than putting it in the car and hoping. So, but the only thing that goes wrong with those, though, they don't. The original ones is that they snap. They actually snap, and so when you go to put the cone on the cone instead of grabbing it, it just flares out. There's no synchro, and so you don't need a synchro in 4th. You don't really need one in 1st because you hardly ever change into 1st. So when you're changing up into 4th, the RPMs almost always match anyway. But 2nd and 3rd, boy, if you lost your synchro on 2nd or 3rd, it's all but impossible to drive, especially 2nd. But last I knew, the synchros were good again. So. you
Thanks,
can
John.
always
Appreciate it.
Lap them in to make sure. I look forward to seeing you at the swap meet in Chicago. Excuse me, it's not Chicago, it's Wheaton. Wheaton. Okay, all right, great. See ya. All right, iPhone, Jim Riley. John, do I dare use a salvage 1977 Midget underhood electrical harness to replace some shorted wires in my 78B? Well, yeah, sure. I mean, you're going to strip it apart with what I just said not to do, but this is the other one. Yeah, and then you're looking for that light green with red because it burned up. Why would that wire burn up? But you're looking for light green with red, find light green with red and replace it. Oh my gosh, I've been talking to a guy who's, he showed me a picture of his wiring and all the wires have been cut just because you can, I guess. And then, you know, like a red wire becomes a black wire and a green wire becomes a yellow wire. And oh my God. So if you're looking to do a nice job with your original wiring loom, and you want to change a wire, sure, just use it. All the wires are the same. You'll find all the same color wires in that Midget loom as you will in the B loom. You can't use the whole loom, of course. Everything's, I mean, stuff's on, it's altogether different placement, but the color of the wires will work just great. Okay, Maurice, diagnosing a Speedo that isn't functioning. The Speedo was recently rebuilt by West Valley Instruments and worked while driving, then suddenly stopped. The cable's intact and the ends look good. Nowhere. Well, this is an interesting one. Maurice, are you still on? So I don't know the year and model, but it might be that he's got a 90-degree drive gear in there. And so those go bad all the time. And I don't like the 90-degree drives on the gearboxes. I always buy an overdrive Speedo cable and go all the way from the gearbox right up to the back of the Speedo. In 75, certainly in 76, there's an induction, or there's a counter. So there's a short cable that goes up to the counter, and then from the cable it goes into the Speedo, and the counter goes to 100% and 48,000 miles. And then it trips a light on your console that says EGR. You're supposed to take it back to the dealer to have the charcoal canister replaced. What a lot of wiring and extra stuff. Just the counters go bad. If you take the cable off the back behind your Speedo and drive the car, you should feel that cable turning clockwise. You shouldn't be able to stop it with your hands. So if that's the case, that you can't stop it with your hands, and there's something going on with the Speedo. Does the odometer still work? There are 2 units in the Speedo. Does the odometer work and the Speedo doesn't? Then it's in the head. If the cable isn't turning, then it's something, you know, from the cable down to the 90-degree or worse down inside the gearbox. So,
John,
yes.
on those cables, except for the length, are the ends the same from, say, a MGA to an MGB?
Yeah, the part that changes, we changed in 77 dramatically. The Speedo end, most of them are like the overdrive cable for a 68 is a 2738 slash 1830. It means it's the 27 and whatever number else I gave there that defines the ends, but those stay the same. There's some change. Those are interesting. Those are British brass threads. I think 26 threads per inch. It's a real fine thread.
My MGA is quit, and I suspect it's the cable. I've got some other cables that they if the length was right, or the odds, and I don't know whether they came out of the T series or out of the B, or because I got all 3 and it's all messed up.
Well, T-types are real bizarre. You can't use those. And MGAs and MGBs are pretty much the same up to about 68. I want to say they are. So you can't use one that's too short, obviously, but you can use one that's too long. Just
That's
got
what I was thinking.
just nice big radiuses, and then it won't, the inner cable won't start chafing the outer sheath.
John,
Give it a try.
John, what's the lube on those speedo cables?
You know, when I used to deal with Neisinger, I haven't dealt with West Valley Instruments much, but all those, the 3 or 4 big shops. And Peter at Neisinger used to rail against having too much grease on the cable because it would wind up and get packed in the back of the speedometer and then cause problems being in there. I know there's white lithium grease. I had the name of something written down. It was something real bizarre. I can't remember. I'm not sure graphite is the best stuff. Call West Valley Instruments. Where are they? Riverside, or maybe they're San Francisco. And
San Valley.
And ask them.
It's a question that's been going on for years, even with the Model A Ford speedo cables and everything. Everybody has the same problem on the lube.
Okay. So I don't know. I have it written down someplace, but
I had my T speedometer rebuilt by Neisinger, and then a buddy, while I wasn't looking, lubricated the cable. About a week later, the speedometer quit, and I sent it back to Neisinger. They said, you're gonna pay all over again because we're gonna do the whole job all over again.
Yep.
Nice friends.
I guess the secret is whatever you use, don't use a whole lot of it. You know. So.
John?
Yes.
This is Walter in Southern California.
Yes, sir.
I have a comment on speedometers. I spent probably $500 between speedometer repair, cables, angle drives, and all that to try to get a good working speedometer, and I finally gave up. And what I found was an outfit that makes these GPS input speedometers.
Yes.
They're customizable. You can change the color of the digits on the speedometer or the needle. The digits can match, the whatever else gauges are in your MG. And I've been using it, and I think it's just great.
I know Neisinger, before they shut down their instrument repair for us, that was one of the options that they had, was to put a GPS in there. And it's, as long as the Chinese don't shoot down our satellites, it'll continue to work just great. And it's always accurate and digital,
right.
modern.
Yeah. This is made by Speedhut, SPEEDHUT. And you can tell them to set the odometer to 0 or to any other thing you like.
Speedhut.
Right.
Okay. All right. Thank you for the information.
Doesn't work in
tunnels. Hi, John. It's Neil Bryden from the MG Car Club in Toronto.
Yes, sir.
I did the same thing with my 64 MGB because I was told that the part inside the transmission was shot. And I put an intelligence GPS in, and yeah, it's not original, but it sure works.
Okay, all right. Well, apparently the Speedhut puts this gadget on the back of your existing one, so it looks the same or something like that. That's what Neisinger used to do. But yeah, you gotta have a working speedometer. And if you give up, if you give up in my MGA, I can have this guy lying right in front of the armrest, and that'll tell me, but it turns out my speedometer is like right spot on. So I had that done by Neisinger some years ago, and it's still working just great.
Yeah. Yeah, working good. Thanks.
Okay. All right, we're going on to Doug. Doug Miller, time and address for the 21st birthday party. That's at the Hilton Doubletree Hotel, 28th Street and Patterson. It's 4747 28th Street Southeast. 616-957-0100 is their phone number. But anyway, it's the northeast corner of 28th Street and Patterson. That's the week from this coming Saturday from 1 to 4. So meet other MG people. When it's minus, I had to change it because we weren't sure it was going to be -4. But the postcard used to read, when it's -4 degrees outside, there's warm MG fellowship inside. So.
Hey, John,
Yes,
I'm not sure if we went over this when we did the electrical stuff, but what do you think about the LED lights for backup brakes, brake lights, side lights, and what bulbs fit in without any other electronic or electric configurations or upgrades?
I didn't say anything about them. I should have. I admitted that. Abingdon Spares, they've got a website presence. They have all that stuff available. I don't know. I made the error of buying 1157 bulbs that were LEDs. Brilliant. Put them in my daughter's MGBGT, and it's like I had a single candle behind there. I just couldn't figure out what was going on. So I thought, well, I bought them off the internet, you know, they're cheap, you know. So I bought another set, cost me another $70. Still couldn't see anything. It was worthless. So I took those out and put the original incandescent bulbs in. Well, then I attended a seminar last year, the Kimberfest, and come to find out, Ed told everybody, well, you know, when you buy an LED that looks white, there may not be any red in it. Well, duh. That's why my daughter's brake lights didn't show up red, because there wasn't any red to come through. So you got to get the right ones. So he supplies all that stuff. Ed Cook at Abingdon Spares. So I don't know if they got individual bulbs or whether you got to buy the package, you know, with all the jillion little pieces in it, which then is more. I just bought a set for my MGA, my Mark II MGA, and I think I paid $250 for all the stuff that I needed, but it fits right in underneath the lens. So, but people then can see you. They can see you now. They say they can't, but anyway.
John, Jim
Nice.
Chapman put those 2-inch LEDs on his MGA coupe, and they worked out pretty good on that part, but there's no red in those.
Okay. Yeah. Well,
I put all LEDs on in both my T-Series and my MGA. I got them from Little British Car, which is a reseller of Moss, I think. And the nice thing on the TD is they were dual polarity, or didn't care about polarity. On the MGA, of course, it's negative ground, so it worked out real well. The only problem I had was the taillight bulbs for the TD. Mine is a 53, so it's got the round taillights. The LED bulb was longer than the equivalent incandescent, and so it interfered with the lens. I actually ended up putting don't tell anybody, but putting bug-eye Sprite lenses on the back of the TD.
You put beehive lenses on your TD.
Yeah, no,
oh, you better hope I'm not judging the next show.
I know it. I also put LED headlights in both of them, and they are spectacular. But you're absolutely right. LED lights make a particular color, and that's all they make. They don't make anything else. But that's why you get so much more light for less energy usage.
And you don't chew up the dash switches. And at this point, you don't need to have relays.
You're not pulling any current.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, every now and then something comes along that truly is new and improved. I mean, there's lots of stuff that says new and improved, and it's only new. But the LEDs are great. So there's some other stuff too. You got to put a different flasher unit in because it's not drawing enough current to make an old bimetal flasher work. But
John, I go ahead.
Yeah,
See,
the one thing that I read on the LEDs, at least on my 70 MGB, oh, this is Crystal Johnson out of Texas,
Yes,
is the alternator light. Don't change that to LED. That needs the incandescent.
okay,
Well, I
Thank
mean,
you.
you can shift it, but you gotta put some type of resistor or diode or something in there. I mean, I
It ain't worth
replaced all my dash lights to LED, but not the alternator. Leave the alternator light alone.
okay, thank you.
That makes
So
sense.
John-
I put LED headlights and taillights, but because the brake lights don't require as much ground, my crews stopped working. I have aftermarket crews. But I found a 5-pin relay. I have a diagram and makes it work just fine. But those lights are great. I know what my headlights should look like. Plus I got a 95 amp alternator. And that helped me to know what my headlights should look like. And it's out of a, if anybody wants one, it's out of a 78 Saturn. And a friend of mine sells these. You gotta turn the body so it fits in the MG, but it's he wires them up and everything for you. I love it.
Thanks.
Does anybody have any experience with the LED headlights from Abingdon?
I've only heard Ed Cook talk about them and how, you know, that you can go on Amazon and buy LED headlights, but are they really going to work? Are they really focused? And he had a bunch of examples that he showed to us last year, Kimberfest. And the ones that he sells, of course, were like brilliant. I mean, they were bright and they were focused. So he knows what I was so impressed that I have no problem saying that Ed Cook at Abingdon Spares knows what he's selling, and what he's selling is good stuff.
Hi, John, Neil Bryden again.
Yes.
I recently installed the LED headlights from Abington Spares and on my 64 MGB, and they were great. Plug and play, easily installed, easily focused. Everything's great.
Plug and play.
Yeah, plug and play. No
Okay.
problem. Yeah.
Is that true also for the backup lights and the side markers?
On my 64, I don't have any of that stuff.
Okay.
My guess is those are festoon based, the reverse light. Chances are that Ed can help you out with those. I mean, if anybody can, I'm sure he can.
Yeah, and I
Thank you.
found them really reasonably priced, like I think shipped and everything to Canada, it was like just over $200.
Yeah, that's Canadian, so it's only 68 here.
Yeah, I mean, it was peanuts in your dollars.
Sorry.
Don't worry,
Hey,
they'll charge you the full price.
All right, here I'm gonna go on here. We've got a differential question now from Martha Ann McKillop. Anyone gone the route of a rebuilt, reconditioned differential assembly? Any recommendations for sourcing or places to stay away from? I was looking at Rimmer Brothers in the UK. So my experience with differentials is they aren't good stories. It just takes forever to get one set up. For me, I know there are people who know what to do, driveline specialists, but almost always a good used differential is easier and cheaper than going with a rebuilt unit. Now, the things you can change in a differential without getting down into where you get the whine, you can change the front taper bearing on the pinion, and of course you can change the rear axle bearings, and you can change the shims behind the spider gears. But as far as the larger taper bearing that controls the position of the pinion and the differential bearings that control the position of the crown wheel, anything else is a go, and you can usually make them work if you do that, unless they've been run loose for too long of a time. So what's the scoop? Is yours wine or what, Martha?
Just trying to make some changes to it for doing a rebuild on it, on the whole car.
Just,
So we're just trying to improve it.
yeah, there's not much improvement. I mean, you can service it, you know, but geez, so what year have you got?
58 MGA.
Not much goes wrong. The wheel bearings are almost always okay. The pinion bearings are almost always okay. And again, you can change the front pinion bearing. But the other three, the big one at the head of the pinion and the two that carry the crown wheel. And I don't know anyone who does that work. I don't.
Okay. No worries. Thank you.
Okey doke. But you should get a 3.9 differential in there anyway, Martha. You probably have a 4.3 in there right now. But if you put a 3.9 in there, you can get a lot better road speed. I've got a 3.9 in my MGA. I got a 1622 engine. I popped it up a little bit. It's nice and powerful. But at $5,000, I'm doing 90. So it's
No, and I think that 3.9 is what we're trying to get to.
okay.
We were looking at doing the reconditioned differential to try and get them.
Okay. Yeah, well, the only thing that changes between an MGB differential unit, the pig, and yours is the number of splines on the half shafts when they go in. You can change those gears real easily. Take them out of your old MGA one and stick them in the MGB one, and it'll work great.
Okay.
What about the shims then, John?
The shims that go behind the spider gears?
Yes.
Well, the hemispherical ones are copper. But the flat ones, the flat ones originally are copper, and those are almost always still okay. If you buy new ones, there's some kind of plastic, or I don't know, use the expensive word, phenolic. But I mean, help me out, if there's any kind of galling in there at all, it's going to catch that plastic and just tear it apart. That's why a lot of late model MGB differentials have that clonk, C-L-O-N-K. That clonk to them as you accelerate and decelerate. If someone were to make copper flat washers that go behind the differential wheels, oh my gosh, get rid of a whole lot of that clonking. I just don't. That's and I wish that the hemispherical washers were available in, like, I don't know, 10,000ths oversize to take up for some of the wear there. But
Wasn't Mason from Texas making those quite a few years back?
somebody was, that came up before. They came up before. Somebody was making them, but not now, or nobody knew how to get in touch with them or something. So, all right, I'm going to go on here to Sean. To everybody, hey, Mr. Twist, happy 2023. Happy 2023 to you. I need your insight on the next move. I should be. The situation is I have a 69 MGB with the engine in the bay. It turns over. However, it has poor compression, especially between cylinders 2 and 3. Could there be a possible blown head gasket? Or should I focus on the valves, seeing if they're working properly? So let's see. What to do first? You always do the cheapest, simplest, easiest stuff first. So you'd adjust the valves. Just adjust the valves and see if that took care of it. If it doesn't, and the compression's still low, then no matter what's going on, blown head gasket, bad valves, bad rings, the head has to come off in any of those 3 cases. So after you've adjusted the valves to 15 thousandths, then check the compression again, maybe run it a little bit first, and then check the compression again. And you're looking for a maximum variation of 10%. So that's like 120 to 130, right? I mean, 120 to 118, you know, but, or 120 up to 132, something like that. That tight of a range. So if you got, you know, like 140 pounds in number one and 80 in number two and 80 in number three and 140 pounds in number four, yeah, chances are you could have a blown head gasket. And of course you can repair the cylinder head and get that flat, but there's going to be some kind of little dish left over on the block, and you got to fill that. That's dicey to do, but you got to put something in there just to help the new head gasket get a little more secure, so it doesn't blow out again too quickly. But no matter what's up, you got to take the cylinder head off. Once the head's off, you can look at the gasket, it's blown or not. That's easy. It's a yes or no. And then you can turn the head upside down and fill each of the cylinders, fill each of the combustion chambers with some volatile fluid. Gasoline's pretty handy. Shouldn't use gasoline. You can use water and see if any of them leak. And then you can also put the pistons halfway up the stroke and put a certain amount of gasoline. Really shouldn't use that. It's pretty handy. On top of each cylinder, and just a measured amount, half a cup or something, and then come back in 20 minutes and look at it. And in as 2 and 3, that's all gone through, and 1 and 4 are still holding. Then you notice the rings. So there's some tests that you can do like that. But outside of adjusting the valves, the head's going to have to come off.
So sorry. We did a compression test on the engine, and cylinder 1, which was the best one, it only got 90 pounds. Should I be concerned about that, or is that like insight?
Well, 90 is not enough to run the engine correctly. How long has it been since it last ran?
Well, apparently it ran a few years ago, but
Okay.
It hasn't been on the road for 30 years.
Okay, all right. So when that happens, and the engine sits in a random place, there's always a couple of valves open, and when those valves are open, they rust. So have you had the engine running yet?
No.
Make it run. Make it run. Just the valves. Make it run. Let it run for 5-10 minutes. Check the compression again, because it might be that it's just rust on the valves. And after it runs for 5 or 10 minutes, all the rust bangs off the valves. So making it runs pretty easy, but you don't need a fuel pump. You need a distributor and wires, and you got to have it timed right, and you got to have some kind of fuel supply to the carburetors, but it doesn't have to be the original fuel pump. Better if it is, of course, but it doesn't have to be, just to let it run long enough to see. If you got some questions, call me tomorrow. I can fill you in a little bit more on how to get that operational. So.
Thank you.
Where are you calling from, Sean?
Virginia.
Okay, all right. Okay, thanks. My next one here on the chat is from Marty, my administrative assistant, reminding everybody about the birthday party at the Hilton. If you're in Michigan or want to drive for a while, come on up. So Dan Reese, not an MG, but a Triumph Spitfire question. Okay. I've got a 79 Spitfire that all the smog equipment was removed. How hard would it be to get this car to pass the California smog test? Impossible. That's said. They help me out. I mean, I don't live in California. I don't know a lot about it. But it seems to me that the first thing they do is look to see if the smog stuff is there. And if it's not there, they'll fail you. Doesn't matter if it's passes smog or not. If it doesn't have the equipment, they'll fail you. So, boy, I don't know. We got an uncle that lives in Utah. Get it registered there.
Hey, John.
Yeah.
Doug Miller here, outside Toledo, Ohio. I lived in California for 20 some years. I was going back and forth with the chat here with Dan about it. Yeah, you're right. It is impossible. They do a visual inspection first. And if you don't have the original equipment on, you're toast, even though it passes. I moved to California from Nevada, and I had the smog test up the exhaust, and I passed all the hydrocarbons, a whole 9 yards, but California would not even venture into that. And I ended up leaving it registered in Nevada. I had relatives there, so it was easy, and then went on from there. But you're right, it's impossible.
I'm going to chime in. I'm a former licensed smog instructor for the state of California. And the quick little test that you do on your car on the dyno is just a very quick snapshot. And to say that my car passes the tailpipe inspection doesn't mean that it's not polluting, right? So I moved to California when, you couldn't see the sky, and breathing the air gave you a sore throat and your eyes watered. We've since fixed that problem because of tailpipe emissions. So sorry, if you live in California, you got to play by the rules. We got too many damn cars and too many people. So you got to leave that smog stuff alone. So there's no bypassing it other than do what I did. I bought a 73B. I'm not in the program, right?
Yeah.
So
How hard is it
I know the smog stuff on late model British cars is a nightmare. I did it for a living, but sorry, you got to play by the rules. That's why I have a 73 and a 69 and a 47 and a 52,
So that's the difference between the 18G and the 18GA engine, is that they got that Smith's PCV valve on there, and that was because California demanded it in 1964 when the smog was at its peak.
And it keeps your crankcase cleaner.
Yep.
That device was originally developed by the Army to prolong oil changes. It's a good thing for the car. And you know how easy it is to change that diaphragm, right?
Yeah, that Smith's PCV valve is a great thing. But by the time you get up to 1980 and you got, the TCSA switch and oh my gosh. So
and the cracked manifolds. Yeah. They were nightmare.
So the 79 Spit isn't going to make it in California. So you've got to find some way to cheat.
Can you find the equipment anymore?
Sure.
Will it?
I say that, sure. But even if you get the equipment, that doesn't mean you're going to be able to make it pass. But there maybe Pat knows if you spend a certain amount of money on it. I know that was the deal in Michigan. Once you'd spent $300, then you're exempt, or I don't know, something.
There are exemptions, but when stuff has been removed, the state's like, well, you took it off, put it back on.
If Dan can find this stuff, so where can you find it?
It's out there.
It is. What's the place in your Triumph Rescue guys in Ohio? What's the Bob? What's the name of that place?
Team Triumph.
Team
Scott Harper. He's Moss distributor, but he gives you discounts. Plus, he's got one and a half buildings full of used parts. And
Team Triumph.
Team Triumph. He's got a website.
Okay.
And they'll probably say, "Oh, you actually want this stuff?"
Hey.
Are the Midgets 1500s, are they the same as the Spitfire?
Yes.
Okay. All right. You guys helped a lot.
Yeah, and you've also got a Sports Car Craftsman in Arvada, Colorado, Denver, Sports Car Craftsman. I don't know how many Midget 1500 stuff he's got, but so anyway.
All right.
John, could I get a question out of the way? It's pretty easy.
Yes.
Probably the pressure breaker switch on a 66B. Do they make one that works?
You got real fluid or silicone fluid?
Yes and yes.
Well, silicone fluid is.
I probably mixed them at one point in time, but it is silicone.
Napa sells that switch. Because it fit lots of stuff.
Okay, so it's probably the silicone.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's, and so you put a relay on it, you know? Which is,
okay,
just, that's about, and sometimes those switches will carry just enough energy to trip the relay, but not enough to light the lights. So you get, if it trips the relay, then you can wire it right down there. I mean, all you need to do is add a ground wire and
okay.
hook the relay up and try that. But Napa sells them, they used to, that pressure switch. So they all can't be coming from the same place. It can't all be so frustratingly bad, but I know that silicone wreaks havoc with those switches.
Well, that makes sense because I got 2 or 3 in a drawer that's not working, and then that makes good sense. Thank you, Steve Crowder, Lexington, Virginia.
Hey, great. It's 9, oh my gosh, it's 9:15 and I haven't even made a second pitch for my going on my website and going to my PayPal button and pressing the PayPal button and saying thank you for offering this wonderful, a lot of discussion tonight. Oh my gosh, lots of people.
I was going to ask about that.
Yep. Well, hey, I'm glad I brought it up.
Yes, sir.
Okay, UniversityMotorsLTD.com and the yellow PayPal button. So I'm going to move on, Steve. So where are you? Virginia?
Lexington, Virginia. Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Is that near Good?
We're about probably an hour.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Okie doke. All right. Let's see. Ben, to everybody, are the fuses the same in an MG Midget? So we don't know the year unless Ben's still on. But in the 4 fuse box, yes. And if you get 20 amp fuses, you're fine. You don't need 20 amps on the bottom 2 fuses, which are the red fuses. In the case of an MGB, it's the top 2 fuses because those are your tail lights. You can use 10 amps on those. Better to use a fuse, as low of a fuse as you can use, because the whole point of fusing the circuit is to catch it before it burns up, and it will start to burn up if you've got a fuse in there that won't pop soon enough. So, but there used to be 17. The original ones are 17 amps. They say it's 17 continuous, but 35 they'll suffer a relatively short load up to 35 amps, and then as long as it stays at 17, you're all right. So, but yes, they are, but you can make improvements on that. So Paul Graham, on my 67 BGT, there's a push button solenoid switch under the hood. Yep. My 77 lacks that push button switch. Are there any tricks or concerns about adding an older style switch to the newer car? You don't have to. That switch is the solenoid on the earlier car. Paul, are you still on with us?
I am.
Okay, so the push button's real nice, and that actually, I mean, that's the switch in your crash style starter, smashes into the flywheel and spin the engine. But on your 70 through 80 MGB, the relay immediately to the rear of the fuse box has got, yours is cylindrical, it's an SRB 402, that was the original part number. It's got 4 wires on it, and if you withdraw the white with brown and touch it to one of the little clips that holds the bottom fuse, that'll spin the engine over.
Okay, that's what I was looking for, was some kind of a remote.
Yeah, if it won't pull far enough, sometimes just the mechanical position of the wiring loom is such you just can't get the wire long enough to touch the clip. Pull off one of the purple wires off the bottom of the fuse box. Now it'll touch that. You just touch it, and you can spin it over to, you're adjusting the valves, or I know you're underneath there tuning it up and you want to start it again. I use that a lot. So,
yeah. Well, the other thing I had done was add a battery lug to it with a rubber cap to protect it when I'm not using it, but I could jump it off from under the hood.
Yeah. How long ago did you install that?
1991.
Because there was a guy named Caron, C-A-R-O-N, who made one called the Caron Connection. And so he brought your battery lead up to that, and then from that back down to the starter motor. And it was just a great big friggin' bolt, with a cap on it.
Exactly.
That you could use to jump it or something. Jumping our cars isn't good. The Lucas alternators don't like to get jumped. Sometimes they'll say, okay, I give up, and that's it, they quit. Of course, that may be why you're jumping it to start off with, right? Because it wasn't doing its job. Anyway, that's it, the white with brown wire on that relay. So there's a white with red. It's not that one. That's the energizing lead. It's the white with brown. Okay, Ben Andrews. Ben, are you still on? I don't hear Ben.
Yes,
I heard something. So fuse boxes, the new ones seem cheap, but for a reason. Are they like the Lucas switches, better off cleaning the old versus buying new? Also any reason to add more fuses to an early B? Well, let's see, bunch of questions there, but the fuse boxes are inexpensive, but all they are, they don't do any, all they do is clip on, and if it works, you just got to make sure the bridged connection, 70 through 80, the bridged connection goes at the top, so that it runs the parking light circuit correctly. The two fuse boxes, that doesn't make any difference. I always clean the old ones. Why not? It's cheaper. Are there reasons to add more fuses to an early B? Certainly the overdrive circuit, certainly that. But the headlight circuit was never fused. The parking light circuit was started to be fused in 1968, and it was fused left and right, so that if you did lose your parking light circuit, people could see the back of your car because one light was still working. That was the idea there, is safety. So I guess, just that parking light circuit, but how do you know, if you do add a fuse on the parking light circuit, you want to add it on a couple real long legs that's really easy to get underneath the dash. And you want to make sure you got your dash lights connected through it also, so that if it does pop, you're in your car, how would you know your parking lights were out? But if you got your dash lights wired through that circuit, which they should be, then if you lose if you lose that circuit, you lose your dash lights, and you'll instantly know at night, of course, that there's a problem. So, okay, Dean Harrison, Happy New Year! Happy New Year to everybody. John Backman, any comments regarding electronic voltage regulators? Yes, well, we talked about that, and I think the Wilton one is no longer available, but someone's making those, and I want to say that Ed Cook at Abingdon Spares supplies those. So if they're available as a spade connector, they're certainly available as a screw connector. So when you're putting your T-type back together, it still looks original. So, all right, Sandy Brainsky says, sorry, no mic or camera tonight, so we don't know if Sandy's still on. I've been taught that dielectric grease does not conduct electricity. Oh my gosh, well, I don't know. People tell me it does. If it's conducts, why is it called dielectric? Anyway, that's why it's used on rubber spark plug boots so they won't seize. May not be the best choice for electrical connection. I'm no expert, but it certainly seems to make sense. I don't use any grease at all, but help me out. Who's on here who knows absolutely positively that dielectric grease conducts electricity?
I always thought it didn't.
It does not conduct electricity. That's why you use it. Because if it conducted electricity and you had some overflow, you'd get creepage and you'd get shorts all over the place.
Okay.
But it does. So, but when you have a tight, snug fit, what it does is it displaces the grease and you still get your good connection.
Okay.
And it keeps all the water out too.
Okay. All right. Thank you. That makes more sense to me than anything I've been hearing for a long time. It's like, all right. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Jennifer Golden, 77 MGB diagram gives me deer in the headlights headache. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Jennifer, you still on? It's, oh my gosh, it's 9:20 anyway. I don't see Jennifer, but yes, the 77B diagram is exciting. It's like this one behind me. It's like that great big diagram that's behind me. And the only way you can make sense out of it is to have it changed into something poster size. And if you're going to get one, get a couple of them printed, because pretty soon you're going to mark on it and then you're going to wish that you had another one. It's not worth having it laminated, because if you use dry erase on it, you got to get that dry erase color off instantly, or it's really difficult. So, all right, to Pat G from California. It's still 6 o'clock in the afternoon out there. A problem I learned the hard way after an engine rebuild: too much beautiful MG red paint on the surface of the engine block where the starter bolts up. How bizarre is that? Very poor ground. So it affected his ability to get the electricity to and from the starter motor, and so that the starter motor turned over slowly. So after cleaning the mating surface, it worked great. Easily diagnosed with a voltage drop test with a voltmeter, but your test light would also work there too, Pat. That test light will light up brilliantly if there's a problem like that, especially at the starter motor.
Can't do a dynamic test with a test light. Voltmeter you can. You can measure the voltage drop while the starter is energized.
Well, because you don't have three hands, I mean, you gotta hold both. I mean, you can put the test light on it and then operate the starter motor.
It's solenoids right there. Yeah.
Okay, right. Yep.
I
Okay.
win.
Okay, right.
Thanks.
Okay.
Thanks, John.
Yep. Dean Harrison, I've got an early Canadian 68 spec MGC. We've talked about that. Jennifer Golden. Oh, yeah, all right. I fear too many people have done too many things to my car for the wiring diagram to align. Well, that is, oh my gosh, I was in Middleburg, is that right? Virginia, or at Randy's house, and he had a wiring loom that someone had subtracted wires from. And if you subtract wires you don't need for the seatbelt interlock system, so what? But they subtracted wires you did need. And they changed colors of wires and then wrapped it so that it entered as a red and came out as a white with black or something. It was a mess. I fixed it in place. I got it all operational and made it all work and everything. But oh my gosh, it's so awful when people have done all that kind of stuff. So Blair Weiss to everybody says vintage Mectronics. So Blair must be Dave Arndt. Yeah, that must be the voltage control, the control boxes.
Yep.
Okay, Blair, thank you. Vintage Mechatronics. There we go, Mechatronics. I just had to get all those syllables in there. Vintage Mechatronics. Okay, so. Blair, thank you for weighing in on that. Neil, everybody, I'm in the reassembly stage of 80B. Someone suggested while I'm at it to replace all the dash lights with LEDs. Is there a downside? No, unless the LEDs don't fit, you can't get bayonet base. Almost on a 1980B, almost all of them are, none of them are screw in, they're all bayonet base. Except for those little tiny ones you could never, with a Lilliput Edison threads on them. Oh my gosh, those are so tiny.
But remember what Crystal said, because the generator alternator light needs the incandescent bulb. So everything but that.
Okay, we had a guy come in one time with a TR6. It's embarrassing. It was a TR6. Anyway, that one, the turn signals, there's a single light on the dash, and it's hooked to both sides of the turn signal circuit. So when you operate the right turns, power comes up to it and then it grounds through the left-hand circuit. Okay, or when you turn the left on, power comes up the left side and it grounds on the right through the right-hand circuit. Well, if you put an LED in there, it only works one way. Yeah, so yeah, there's some fun stuff that you all of a sudden it's like, oh my gosh, you know, it isn't going to work. So, Doug Miller, I've lived in California for 20 years with emissions removed. That's interesting. They have to do a visual first. If you don't pass, you fail. My car tested clean with hydrocarbons. That didn't matter. It will not do a smog test at the exhaust. I ended up registering it in Nevada. He's already been on and told us that. Yeah, yeah. Oh, here we go. Yeah, Pat G says that, you know, the changing choke and throttle cables. Oh my gosh. Yeah, those will turn red hot when you're cranking the engine if you've left the ground strap off. So LED replacement on 80B. Yes, do it. General comments from changing to positive to negative ground. You know, the only reason you're doing that is because you've got LEDs, because you've got a radio, and the sound of the engine should be music enough to your ears. Changing positive to negative just makes it common. You have to scrape off your membership in the Positive Earth Club, but it doesn't make a whit of difference whether you're positive or negative ground, except on the earlier T-types. On the T-types, they're all earlier. And that is that the ammeter will run backwards. So in the color diagrams here, we've got a link to Chicagoland MG Club for tech hints. So in the rest of these, I think we've covered these. Charles Batieri says, great, I could see my instruments. So anyway, that was nice. But then he said he had a problem with the bulbs. So anyway, we are down to, we're still talking about wiring. Where does one go for an MGA wiring diagram similar to the B? Geez, I don't know. MGA wiring diagram is so easy that you just blow it up a little bit. So I've added silicone fluid to my new brake system on an MGB project car. Can I use silicone brake fluid in my clutch master? Yes, Greg Fisher. Finally, we don't have something besides an electrical question. I don't know. We're all at all but 9:30. We still got 121 people on. Doug, are you still on? Doug Clark, did you come on tonight?
Yeah, John, I am on tonight. Yes.
What count did we have tonight?
I'm not sure whether we've approached Guinness Book of Records territory here.
No, not tonight.
Well, 250.
Not tonight.
Yes. At 6:40 p.m., John, 6:40 p.m. Eastern time, that registered 250.
Hey, I owe you $5. Thanks. I'll take good news like that any day. Thank you. Okay, I had no idea. I've just been watching it. It's always looked like it's 100 a quarter to me because I looked at it in the beginning, and now all of a sudden I've looked at it at the end here because I wondered if Greg Fisher was still on so I could talk to him about silicone fluid in his clutch. Silicone fluid is dicey. You just gotta be careful with it. You gotta bleed it really slowly because it aerates, and it also expands the rubber cups in the master cylinders. It doesn't seem to make a difference in the slave or the wheel cylinders, but it does in the master cylinder. There can be some problems. So, all right, Crystal, after installing all new brake parts and turning the original drums, when adjusting the rear brakes, there's an obvious drag on one spot while trying to spin both left and right wheels. Should I replace the drums? No, I don't think so. Crystal, you still on? It's only
Yep.
8:30, only 8:30 in Texas.
Yeah, I'm still on.
Okay, if there's a pulsating off the pedal, oh yes, absolutely. But if it's just some drag, I just go out and drive it and bed them in. I think it'll work.
Okay. Yeah, because as I'm doing that quarter inch adjustment,
Yeah.
bolt, right? You're supposed to turn it until you get a slight drag. Well, I get a slight drag, all of a sudden it kind of it's like the drums are oblong.
Yeah, yep, I know what you mean. So I tell people to, back the adjuster all the way out, grease it, run it all the way in till it stops, so you can't turn it anymore. Don't break it off, not that tight. And then back it off quarter turn by quarter turn until the drum runs free. Now, after the brakes are bedded in, after 500 miles or something, then there's the distance between locked and loose is 1/4 of a turn, but in the beginning, it's 2 or 3 or 4 quarter turns.
Okay, yeah. All right, I wasn't sure whether to go with the majority where it turns freely, or when it hits that one spot where it goes, nope, I ain't turning.
Well, if it's just one little tiny spot, it'll be okay. But if it's more than that, then, you get out of the car and push the back of your hand down by the brake drum. It shouldn't be hot. Or
Okay.
one side shouldn't be hotter than the other. And if you got a gun, a infrared pyrometer, those things are great. When I don't have mine at the shop, I have it here at the house for cooking. Those are great. And you can tell the temperature of the drum just instantly.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Oh, let's see, Brian, here we go. Steve at Advanced Auto Wire, Martha, color diagram for an MGA. We don't have an answer for that yet. Tony W, dealing with electrical, if it hasn't come up yet. I'll mention the dreaded emergency brake diode failure that can cause the starter motor to keep running after you stop. Oh my gosh. Yep. So anyway, there's because of the way 2 lights work on the panel between the tach and speedo on the 77 through 80, there's some diodes in the circuit. Oh boy, I'm starting to get modern here. And if the diode that runs the handbrake warning light, if that fails, and that isn't that you can't get electricity through either way. It said if you can get electricity through both ways, if it fails continuous, that means that when the key is on and you pull the handbrake up, the starter motor starts. That's crazy.
Exactly.
Just crazy. So anyway, I've seen that happen before. So, oh my gosh. So, if sometimes it just happens like that. So where are you calling from, Tony?
Outside of Philadelphia, near Malvern, Pennsylvania, think Valley Forge.
All right. Okay.
But it is something where, diodes are supposed to be, from an electrical standpoint. I'm a mechanical guy, but from an electrical engineering standpoint, they're supposed to be brain dead simple. But when they fail, they can fail to flow backwards.
Yes.
And you can see them charge up to 3, 4, 5 volts in backwards flow, just enough to keep the starter solenoid engaged. And once that happens, you've locked the battery voltage onto the solenoid and you will not stop until something happens or you disconnect the battery.
Yeah, those are always like, and of course, you never, first of all, you gotta get through the Zeus screws to get the battery cover off, unless you've got a dime, and who carries coins with them anymore. Yeah, it can be real frustrating. Fortunately, that happens extremely rarely.
So your engine would crank over, but it would not start because the ignition's off, right?
It does start because you've energized the coil.
It
You
wants
put
to
12 volts
start.
to coil.
It wants to start. It's 77 to 80. It wants to start because there's a start circuit You've got, you don't just have a running circuit, you've got a start circuit that takes battery voltage and puts it to the coil, because the coil is normally running on 6 volts on a 77 through 79, on a 75 through 79. The coil runs on a 6-volt circuit. And then right at startup, you get full battery voltage, which is severely depressed because the starter motor is running, but it's like 10 volts, 10.5 volts. So instead of having suppressed normal voltage, you've got suppressed battery voltage. So you've got a much bigger spark than you would normally, because you're trying to start the car, and the federal government wants the car to start as quickly as it possibly can, because the more it goes without starting, the more unburned hydrocarbons you're shooting down the tailpipe and filling up the valley in front of the mountains in Los Angeles. So, it starts, the starter motor starts, the starter motor's running, but the engine runs too, because the starter motor's running. Right now, the engine's doing idle speed. And even though there's a one-way clutch on the starter motor, that's to prevent the armature and the starter motor from spinning too quickly. When the engine's running, that little sprag clutch in there can't do what it's supposed to do, not with the engine running. And so the inside of the starter motor, is turning 30,000 RPM or something crazy, and it blows it blows it apart. The armature just expands, and
that's what I was thinking. Right, that's going to kill your starter.
Mine, I lucked out because it didn't kill the starter. And I'm thinking to like my old shop days, I assumed I had a bad or a locked starter solenoid on the Bendix drive. So it kept doing this for a couple seconds, and I knew I couldn't get into that battery compartment before something bad was going to happen. Had the key, and I'm like, okay, I'm not going to make it any worse if I trigger the ignition a couple times and flick it. Maybe I can unlock it. And it turns out that's not what happened, but something happened enough that it unlocked, the car stopped. And from there, until I figured it out, I was running with the battery box open. So when the next time it happened, and it did happen, I had the battery cable. It was already loose. I could just disconnect it, and everything went quiet.
Wow.
Then and this is on MGB experience list. I figured out there was that diode, and I found the diode, pulled it, put, reverse polarity through it, and I could see it rise. When you put 14 volts, you could see it rise over time backwards in a way that a diode shouldn't.
Yeah, it's shorting. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
You guys are
that's a
making a
known
good
issue.
case. You guys are making a good case for a battery disconnect switch too.
Bingo.
I have
Yes.
that.
Yeah. Yep.
I've got that on my vehicle. Yeah.
Yep. A battery disconnect is good for 2 reasons. One is for thieves, but help me out. Who's going to thieve a 1977 MGB?
Where's yours parked, John?
Well, yeah, in my garage, but it's like it's only a crime of opportunity. I mean, you got a locking steering column. I mean, no one's gonna. I mean, if somebody's gonna come and steal it to keep it because they want it and they planned it, they've already got this stuff all planned out, right?
Yep.
So yeah.
There's so many circuits not fused on our cars. I have a battery cutoff because I don't want my garage catching on fire, and when I'm not home, too many circuits are unfused.
Yeah. Okay. You can make a case for that. Absolutely.
The other thing I did, John, you mentioned carrying a dime around. I bought some Zeus fasteners that have D-rings on them.
Yes.
Nice.
Yeah.
They're not cheap, but I'll tell you what, it makes it so much easier to remove that compartment, especially if you have by the little storage bin for where the other battery used to be.
Yeah, Rob Clark makes those new battery covers with this that are hinged, that actually pop open. He's got the Zeus screws with the rings on them. So yeah.
And I think he sells the Zeus screws by themselves. I bought them from the manufacturer, and they're still expensive.
Okay.
But what a worthwhile expense, as far as I'm concerned.
So John, I just throw that in there as a PSA because it can happen.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. I've seen I've seen all this stuff happen. That one of the better ones that happened, and I'll close. I can't. We've got some more stuff in chat, but it's 9:45. My God, and we still have 106 people on. So I had this guy call this years ago, and he calls me up and he says, when I turn my key off, my red ignition light comes on. What's going on? I said, well, the alternator's faulty. It's got a short in it. Oh my God, what's that going to cost? I said, well, to take it off the car and rebuild it and put it back on, it's going to be, $100. Oh my God, I can't afford that. And I said, well, then you're going to have to disconnect the battery every time you turn the car off. He goes, okay, well, I'll do that. So anyway, so he pushes the battery connector back on every time he wants to start. He comes home one night, turns the key off, light doesn't come on. Hey, maybe it's cured itself. So as he walks out of the garage, of course, the light pops back on. And about an hour later, because there's a short in the alternator, the brown wire, the heavy brown wire that goes from the starter solenoid, from the battery to the starter solenoid, then up to the alternator, that's getting warmer and warmer and warmer. And finally, the insulation is coming off it. And then it, in turn, down by the starter motor, is lined very close to the white with brown wire, which operates the starter motor. So it takes the insulation off that, and then those two wires touch, and the starter motor starts, right? So he's parked it in his garage in gear, and all of a sudden, it starts up and comes up, hits the garage wall. On the other, this is what he told me. On the other side of the wall is the toilet, is the downstairs bathroom or the back bathroom. And his wife was sitting on the can and jostled her off the toilet by hitting the wall. So anyway, there's lots of good stories too, not just awful ones. So anyway, I've got to bring it to a close here tonight because it's 9:45 and I get so it's like 9:45 Eastern. I know it's only 6 o'clock on the West Coast, but so anyway, or something like that. But I want to thank everybody for being on. And
happy birthday, John. Thanks a lot.
Hey,
Thank you, John.
thank you.
Thanks, John.
Thanks a lot, John. Good job as usual.
Doug, thank
Thanks,
you
John.
for counting. I had no idea that number got so high. Holy moly! But
Thank you, John.
they left when it wasn't as exciting as Fred Horner last week. I'll have next time I do electric, so I'll have to get Rick Astley or Steve to come on with me and do some stuff. Jim
When's the next session, John? When's it, in 2 weeks or what?
Yeah, in 2 weeks. That would make it the
MJ,
23rd,
yes.
right? 23rd.
Right.
This is the alternator.
And Richard
This is
Pinger, you must be on my mailing list, or you wouldn't have got the code to come in tonight. But if anyone out there has friends or anything, have them go on the website and push the PayPal button first, but then right after that, push the one that says join our newsletter, and that's how I'm able to track your email address and send you a constant contact invitation, or like tonight, a reminder or correction, because I didn't proof it closely enough. So, okay. So next one will be the 23rd. And I don't know what we'll talk about, but it'll be something fun. Almost was. Barney, where are you? Down in Florida? I see you got sunglasses on. No, it's just a reflection. Barney, can you unmute?
How's that? Can you hear me? We're in Naples, Florida tonight.
Kinda, yeah. Where are you?
Naples, Florida.
Oh my, okay, all right. Okay. Right. Alan, nice to see you.
How did I get that one?
Alan Batchelder, nice to see you. If you got a magnet, Alan's your man. So anyway, we're down to just a few people left here, and I do want to say good night. Jim Pastore's on. Jim runs a real nice show. in Altoona, Pennsylvania, the weekend before Labor Day. We're gonna rebuild a Midget engine at the tech seminar there. Prior to that, I did talk to him, Jim. He finally had to call me because I hadn't called him, so.
Night, John.
All right. Ladies, gentlemen, we had 4 ladies on tonight, at least 4 ladies on tonight. How nice is that, huh? You know? And we had some younger people on, so hey, you know, every day it gets nicer. So anyway, thank you.
Thanks, John.
Thank you, John.
Thanks,
We
John.
always,
Thank you, John.
Good night, John.
always learn a thing or two.
Good night, John.
That's
Good
cool.
Good
Good
night.
night. See ya.
Thank you.
Good night. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Happy New Year.